I'm going to ask Shane to present next. Shane Prins is my colleague at the City of Cape Town. He has 20 years of experience in the energy industry. He worked for Eskom, he worked in the oil and gas sector, and he has a BSc in electrical engineering and a master's in business leadership. And I sometimes think it's the battle of the metros when City of Cape Town and Ekurhuleni go up against each other in this area of energy innovation. Thank you, Shane.
Thanks, Leila. Please let me know if you can see the screen.
I can see the screen and we can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So as good morning or good afternoon, everybody. I tried to unpack this question that Leila posed to me to showcase in terms of what the City of Cape Town is doing regarding this energy transition, and then touch on one or two of the points that she put forward in terms of guiding us. So I tried to frame it as far as a transition to sustainable, secure energy future for the City of Cape Town. And really the two standout themes there around sustainability as well as security of supply is what I will focus on. So first and foremost, from a sustainability perspective, the City of Cape Town has developed a climate action plan. And really our intent is to contribute to the reduction in climate change impacts that's being felt globally from various angles. We also want to become a leader in transitioning to a competitive, resilient, and efficient green economy. And really the thinking behind this is it's of strategic importance for the city to showcase that we are committed to a cleaner environment and thereby hopefully attracting businesses that are like-minded into the city and increasing investment into our city as well. So we have entered into global climate change action commitment, for example, with C40, and we have got other local as well as international commitments. And the City of Cape Town Climate Action Plan, of course, tries to unpack that into various focus areas. For example, the two that I've shown there, SFA 7, which is a carbon neutral energy network for work creation, as well as economic development, and SFA 8, which focuses on net zero carbon buildings and precincts. The climate action plan and our focus on contributing towards climate change mitigation, of course, forms the basis for our renewable energy program, which I will touch on in the following slides. The city has launched a embedded IPP procurement program focusing on renewable energy. This tender was launched in February of this year, and we are targeting lower carbon energy embedded IPPs up to 200 megawatts. Energy cost savings is a key benefit that we're trying to realize by the pursuit of this program. However, the increase in renewable energy components globally does pose a risk to the IPPs meeting the tariff cap that the city has put forward. We have tried to introduce a tariff regime that encourages the supply of energy over peaks, and this energy may then be available, hopefully, for load shedding mitigation or peak shaving on certain days. We're expecting first power from this program to be online around the end of 2025 and received quite an encouraging response from the market. So additional bid windows are potentially planned for the future. The city has also got our own generation program, and the first of these projects that should be coming online over the next few years is based in Atlantis. We are developing a 10 megawatt solar PV plant there, connected directly to the City of Cape Town's network. It's sited on a vacant piece of land, city-owned, between the existing industrial and residential zones in Westphalia. And this will be our first city utility scale solar PV plant, of course. We will future-proof it. Hopefully, we will add battery storage to the site at a later stage. And where we are right now in terms of this project, the city has taken an investment decision to move this project forward. We have completed the feasibility study, and we're now moving into the detailed design phase. Execution is planned for early in 2023, and hopefully we will be completing this project, if not by the end of 2023, then probably first quarter of 2024. And the localization of benefits of this project is a key component of the project, and this includes hopefully manufacturing as well as the localization of labor. We see this project as a lighthouse project for the city. In other words, something we can aspire to and will hopefully trigger us to go on to bigger and better things. Speaking of bigger and better things, the city is also targeting the development of a solar PV plant in the area of Somerset West. It's on city-owned land of about 400 hectares called Paardenvlei. Through a extensive site selection process, we've identified suitable land parcels that could potentially host 50 to 60 megawatt of solar PV. We are quite intent on introducing battery storage into the project. Depending on the timing, it can form part of the initial scope, or we could potentially retrofit. We see the benefits of the solar PV plant also in terms of load shedding mitigation, depending on operating regime. If we have a plant of significant size, 50 to 60 megawatts, this could definitely help us in terms of load shedding mitigation going forward. We have been quite fortunate in securing support from C40 Climate Finance Facility to do the assessment of feasibility at this plant at their cost, for which we're quite grateful. Hopefully, we will get to a final investment decision in 2024 and get this plant up and running by around 2026. This will, of course, be a significant step up for the city in terms of scale, in terms of project execution, as well as the access to funding. We also have a smaller scale embedded generation program. So we have been developing various projects of size between 100 kilowatt to about 1 megawatt of rooftop and small ground mounted PV systems. These projects have been fully developed and we have been granted a final investment decision to go forward. We are hoping to have the last installation completed by around June of 2023. And of course, we're not sitting back on the heels. We have started the second phase development of some new projects as well. An interesting project that the city has been involved in is a pilot project for solar, floating solar at our Kraaifontein wastewater treatment works. This plant has been constructed and is operating as we speak, and piloting and testing will be underway until around early of 2023, and hopefully we will be able to expand this into some larger scale projects at some of our other bulk water facilities. The second component of the City of Cape Town's energy program revolves around the pursuit of energy security. And this really then leads into our Dispatchable Energy Program, which I will touch on in the following slides. Based on analysis done and of course the lived experience of most South Africans, the national energy supply demand balance is becoming ever more precarious within the country. And the most recent technical performance data issued by Eskom shows a decreasing EAF continuously. I think we're under 60% now, and a commensurate increase in energy utilization factor, especially of the coal fleet. So this does not bode well for the longevity of these machines, and it could lead potentially to widespread outages of generators on the system. As a city, we do not foresee an improvement in the Eskom technical performance over the short to medium terms, and I sincerely hope that we are wrong in terms of this outlook. If we look at load shedding statistics over the past few years, there's been a dramatic increase since 2017. And of course, we have just gone through an extensive bout of load shedding in July, where we were continuously at stage 6. 2022 will definitely be the worst load shedding stats on record within the country. So in response to this, the city is pursuing the procurement of dispatchable technologies, able to provide power over extended periods. And the reason for that is, as I've said, the Eskom technical performance, we don't see it improving over the short to medium term, but hopefully the urgent actions being taken at national government and hopefully at Eskom executive level will help to improve the situation. The declining EAF and increasing EUF is a very, very worrying trend. I've got no idea what the status of the black site facilities at Eskom is at the moment, but hopefully they will not be needed anytime soon. I have to note South Africa doesn't have an installed capacity problem. We've got about 50 gigawatts on the system. Winter peak is about 34 gigawatts, but we do have an inability to extract the required energy from these power plants over significantly long periods. So the response at national level as well as local level should not be constrained simply to add megawatts to the system. but focus on a broader energy requirement as well. So we have to look at two fundamental criteria: dispatchability. We have to be able to switch the power plants on when we need them, and these power plants must be able to provide us with a high power output over long periods. So the introduction of high energy and dispatchable capacity from the City of Cape Town's perspective is really a non-negotiable. The city is developing a dispatchable IPP program, and we are fully intent on improving our energy security and mitigate against the load shedding impacts that will be felt at national as well as local level. So over the medium to long term, the city, we've got two choices. Either we self-build or we buy dispatchable high capacity factor energy. Of course, the issue of capital expenditure and the burden that places on the finances of the metro could be a deciding factor in this case. Can I just ask that you participants mute? This tender will be technology agnostic, but of course we will insist that it will be dispatchable and be able to generate for extended periods of time. The impact on the tariff, of course, as a metro and a responsible metro, we have to take this into consideration and will remain a key factor in terms of a decision going forward, in terms of the scale of this program, as well as the operating regime will be required from the participants and the IPPs who do participate in that. First power, I may be a bit optimistic here, expect around 2026. But I have to note that depending on technologies that IPPs put forward to participate in this program, various infrastructure enablers within the city or in the province may be required. I hope and I foresee that this dispatchable energy program have got significant catalytic potential for economic growth, both within the city as well as in the province. I wanted to touch briefly on the City of Cape Town Battery Energy Storage Systems Program. We are fully intent on launching this program in 2023 at utility scale. We have done a lot of homework, a lot of background work, including with the assistance of Green Cape, to develop a fully fledged battery storage roadmap for the city. We are, of course, cognizant of the declining cost trends in battery technologies, but there are also other risks, as we have seen with the Renewable Energy Program, around currency fluctuations, market risk, logistical risk, and so on. So we are trying to take all of that into account to make sure that when we do actually launch this program, we target the right technologies, the right scale, as well as the proper phasing and location of these devices. At this point in time, our main focus will be on network investment deferral, as well as providing backup supply to critical loads, especially considering the impact of load shedding on our operations. And hopefully later, once we have a quote unquote critical installed mass, we could potentially use these devices in a different operating regime to provide us with arbitrage benefits. We have done some detailed location analysis in-house to the city, and we're now at the stage where we're developing business cases for the various sites so that we can go to the market in a few months' time. So battery storage is, of course, a major component of the city's energy resilience strategy. The question does arise, though, if we have a longer-term view, what should be the energy mix that the city is targeting, considering the various objectives around our climate change commitments, as well as energy security imperatives. So we have commissioned a study via the CSIR that will hopefully lead us down having certain options in a quote-unquote electricity pathway that we could take to, over the next few decades, eventually reach our various objectives. So this roadmap that CSIR has recently completed does provide us with those various options. And hopefully, when we implement them, or a combination of these pathways, we should be able to realize the quote least cost and then get the benefits through to our customers as well. The results, which we haven't really made available publicly because we are still interrogating some of it, as well as liaising with the CSIR to refine some of the results. It does, though, indicate that the city should take action now. The cost of regret of not taking action is a lot higher And I think one of the other speakers have mentioned this before, even at national level. It stands to reason that an updated municipal electricity master plan, as the one we have now, will become a standing feature in our energy transition over the next few years. Just some final thoughts, and maybe some more questions as well. I think it's important to note that striking a balance between climate change resilience and our actions there, as well as energy security, is absolutely crucial, both at national as well as local level. So it will require the pursuit of an energy mix of different technologies, whether it's as part of the IRP or whether it's at municipal level, so that we have that balance that can support economic growth as well as provide a clean environment for our citizens. An interesting feature that came out of the IPP procurement program is that there's a reluctance from lenders to finance new entrants into the market without any track record. And we have to ask the question, in the absence of sovereign guarantees, for example, can municipalities really go into loan in terms of procuring energy? And should they, considering the various constraints that they have in terms of their funds? The additional cost burden, especially if you are looking at purchasing dispatchable energy, it might just be a bridge too far for Munich that are less strong financially. Again, the question has to be asked, is it really the mandate of Munich to pursue this? Or should this mandate reside with the DMRE exclusively? I've touched on the increase or the effect of the increase in renewable energy component cost and how that may impact on the viability of either the IPP procurement program in terms of the ability to meet our tariff cap requirements. And we have already seen the impact on the business cases for our renewable energy own build projects within the city as well. In this regard, the sustainability of local component manufacturing, in my view, is absolutely critical to make sure that we are protected against those price shocks. And the question has to be asked again, how does this then align with calls from various areas to scrap local content? How do we sustain the local component manufacturing sector? And we are advocating for the scrapping of local content. Hendrik has touched on this as well, access to land. It is a very real constraint within the municipal context. And revising the municipal spatial planning process to specifically make land available for renewable energy development could be a key next step. The question again has to be asked, is this the best way of using arable and otherwise usable land? We are in a very fast changing power industry and environment. This is a real challenge for us. We are potentially signing up 20-year PPAs with IPPs. So those risks coming over the horizon a decade from now, we have to start thinking about them today. Through sound risk allocation, hopefully we can protect the interests of the Munichs over the next decade to 2 decades by being able to really get our minds around what are those potential risks that we are introducing into the municipal environment. Infrastructure requirements, I feel it must be met to ensure the success of energy procurement programs. For example, if we can get some infrastructure investments at as far as import capacity at our ports are concerned, and hopefully this will unlock multiple value chains that will increase benefits for the province and businesses within the city as well as the province. Just my last question: the pursuit of a just energy transition is quite a noble goal, and I think it's a very fair goal to pursue. The question has to be asked: justice for. Leila, that was a quick rundown. I hope I was within your time limits. And
Thank you, Shane. Very thoughtful presentation. You're about 1.5 minutes over, but that's all good. We are going to take 2 or 3 questions. And while we do that, I'm going to ask Dion to put up the poll concurrently. Okay, I see Vali, you can go ahead with your question.
Thanks, Shane. I think that's an excellent presentation, always par for the course. A similar question I asked to ESCOM early on, but from a different context. So given that this session is on jet, obviously, what are some of the trade-offs the city of Cape Town, and you kind of alluded to it, but I just want you to unpack it very quickly, should be cognizant of, given that we've got this crisis situation, this 2 to 3 year crisis situation, but I want you to talk a bit more from a dispatchable energy, ancillary services, etc., because that's a critical dimension that some of the renewable favorites are pushing at the expense of dispatchable generation. And you made an excellent observation. So I just want you to comment on the importance of that in the context of the slide you made, but in the context of the trade-offs with respect to jet. Thanks, Chair.
Vali, from my perspective, as I've mentioned, we need to try and strike a balance. And I've observed that in some forums, that balance is never being pursued. We have to strike a balance between trying to meet our climate change objectives and our mitigation actions against it, as well as being able to make sure that the supply of energy to encourage economic growth is available to our citizens. Now, if we have certain climate change objectives that will say we're going to be carbon neutral by 2050, the introduction of fossil fuels into our energy mix, of course, could potentially delay that. And I think as a metro and as a country, we have to take a step back and say, well, are we prepared to live with not meeting those objectives if it's delayed by 5 years, for example? Is the price we're going to pay as far as climate change, is that worthwhile if we can encourage economic growth and uplift a large proportion of our people out of poverty? The criticality of having dispatchable energy available to the city, it simply cannot be understated. It cannot be overstated, sorry. And that's why we are pursuing that in all earnest. But as I've indicated as well, we do have a fully fledged renewable energy program in parallel to that. So we're not walking away from the jet at all.